I thought my mom was broke. Not struggling because life is hard broke. I mean, counting coins for gas broke. And for 32 years, I believed her. I built my entire life around that belief. Every decision, every sacrifice, every sleepless night. Then, one afternoon, a stranger in a tailored navy suit knocked on my door and said, "Are you aware your mother owns 3 rental properties and a portfolio worth over $2 million?" That was the moment my world tilted. Because if that was true, then my entire childhood was built on hiding money, and I was the only one who didn't know. My name is Emily. I'm the oldest of 3. Growing up in Ohio, life always felt tight. Not tragic, not dramatic, just constantly short. Mom worked part-time at a dental office. She always said she never finished college because she had to make sacrifices. We lived in the same small house my whole life. Brown carpet, leaky faucet, old fridge that hummed too loud. She used to sigh when bills came in. She'd spread them across the kitchen table like they were enemies. "We have to be careful," she'd say. "Money doesn't grow on trees." When I got into a good state university, she cried. Not because she was proud, because she said she couldn't help me. I took out loans, worked 2 jobs, skipped spring breaks, ate instant noodles like it was a personality trait. And every time I struggled, she'd say, "I wish I had more to give you." Looking back, those words feel different now. Back then, I thought we were bonded by survival. Now, I see the pattern. The deflection, the rehearsed sadness, the financial secrets wrapped in self-pity. But I didn't know that yet. I just knew I felt guilty for wanting more. When my younger brother asked for help with his car, she said no. When my sister wanted to study abroad, she said impossible. When I asked if she had any savings at all, she said, "Barely enough to bury me." That line used to haunt me. Now, it disgusts me. Because what I didn't know, what none of us knew, was that there was hidden money sitting quietly in accounts we were never meant to see. I didn't grow up rich. I grew up manipulated. And the worst part, I defended her. When friends complained about their cheap parents, I'd snap at them. "You don't understand. Some people actually struggle." I wore our poverty like armor. Until the day that man showed up at my door. He wasn't a scammer. He was an estate planning attorney, and he had paperwork with my mother's name on it. That was the first crack in the story I had believed my entire life. And deep down, before I even saw the documents, I felt something colder than anger. It was recognition. Like some part of me had always suspected there were hidden financial secrets buried under her tears. I just never thought they would be this big. And I had no idea yet that uncovering that hidden money would expose something far worse than wealth. It would expose family betrayal in its purest form. And I wasn't ready for that. When the attorney left, I didn't call my mom right away. I sat on my couch, staring at the folder like it might disappear if I blinked too hard. 3 rental properties, a diversified investment portfolio, long-term municipal bonds, all active over 15 years. 15 years. That meant when I was juggling 2 jobs in college, when I was crying in my dorm because I couldn't afford textbooks, there was hidden money sitting comfortably in accounts earning interest. My hands shook, but not from rage, from confusion. I called her that evening. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Mom, do you own any rental properties?" There was a pause. Too long. Then she laughed, soft, dismissive. Where would I get money for something like that? Gaslighting starts small, like a hairline crack in glass. I almost apologized, but something inside me had shifted. "I spoke to an attorney today," I said. "He had documents." Another pause. Then the sigh, the tired mother sigh I'd heard my whole life. "Oh, Emily, you wouldn't understand. It's complicated." Complicated. That word became her shield. She told me they weren't real investments, that they were just paperwork, that she'd been helping a friend years ago and things were misrepresented. Every answer felt rehearsed, polished, emotionally manipulative. And suddenly, all those years of financial secrets didn't feel accidental. They felt strategic. I asked her directly, "Are you broke?" She hesitated. "Yes," she said. Galai landed heavy between us because I had seen the numbers. That night, I couldn't sleep. Memories replayed differently now. The time she refused to co-sign my student apartment lease because she didn't qualify. The Christmas she cried because she couldn't afford gifts, even though she somehow paid the property taxes on time every year. The way she discouraged us from learning about investing. Stocks are risky. Property ownership is stressful. Money ruins families. Money doesn't ruin families. Family betrayal does. Over the next few weeks, I started digging. Quietly, I checked public property records. All 3 houses were in her name, purchased in cash. One of them the same year I took out my largest student loan. That detail broke something inside me, because I remembered that year vividly. I had called her from the financial aid office, crying, "I don't know how I'm going to do this." And she had said, "You're strong. You'll figure it out. We don't have a safety net." There was a safety net. It just wasn't for me. That realization hurt more than the hidden money itself. I confronted her again. This time, I didn't accuse. I asked questions. "Why didn't you tell us?" Her voice turned cold. "Because you would expect it." Expected what? Support? Transparency? She told me she grew up with nothing, that she had learned to protect herself, that children become entitled when they know about money, so she hid it. From all of us. She said she was testing our character. Testing. As if our lives were experiments. That's when I felt the shift from confusion to something darker. Not explosive anger, but clarity. This wasn't just hidden money. These were deliberate financial secrets. And the more she spoke, the clearer it became that this wasn't about protection. It was about control. If we believed she was struggling, we wouldn't ask questions. If we believed she had nothing, we wouldn't expect fairness. If we believed we were on our own, we'd never look behind the curtain. And she could keep everything exactly how she wanted it. The worst part? My siblings still believed her. When I told my brother what I found, he said, "Maybe it's not what it looks like." That sentence used to be mine. Family loyalty is powerful. So is denial. But I had seen the documents. I had traced the transactions. I knew the hidden money was real. What I didn't know yet was why. Why hide wealth from your own children? Why build a lifetime of financial secrets? And most importantly, what else had she hidden? Because something in my gut told me this story wasn't just about money. It was about something much deeper. And I was getting closer to it. The real breaking point didn't happen in a courtroom. It didn't happen in some dramatic screaming match. It happened on a Tuesday morning in a bank lobby that smelled like stale coffee and carpet cleaner. I wasn't supposed to be there. I had requested copies of publicly available property tax statements under the excuse that I was assisting a relative. Technically, I wasn't lying. What I found wasn't just proof of hidden money. It was structure, trust accounts, separate LLCs, a living trust created 8 years ago. 8 years ago? That was the year my father died. My chest tightened when I saw his name, because suddenly the timeline shifted again. The attorney who came to my door hadn't just been doing routine outreach, he was updating beneficiary records. My mother had named a new primary heir, and it wasn't me. It wasn't my brother. It wasn't my sister. It was my cousin Daniel, the same cousin who had helped her with paperwork years ago, the same cousin who conveniently worked in real estate. My vision blurred for a second. This wasn't about protecting herself from entitled children. This was calculated. The hidden money wasn't hidden randomly. It was being redirected. That was the moment something inside me broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, like glass cracking under steady pressure. I drove straight to her house. She opened the door with that familiar soft smile, the one I used to trust. "I need you to tell me the truth," I said. She didn't invite me in right away. That was new. "What truth?" she asked. "The trust, the properties, Daniel." There it was again, the pause, then the shift. Her eyes hardened in a way I had never seen before. "You went digging," she said. It wasn't a question. "You lied," I replied. Her jaw tightened. "I protected what's mine." Mine. Not ours, not family. Mine. I stepped inside without waiting. "I worked 2 jobs while you bought property in cash." "That was my choice," she snapped. "You chose your path." I laughed, actually laughed. Chose. I chose survival because you told me we had nothing. She rolled her eyes. "You're being dramatic." That word, dramatic, as if the financial secrets were minor, as if the hidden money was irrelevant, as if the family betrayal was just a misunderstanding. Then she said something that will echo in my head forever. "I needed to know which of you loved me without expecting anything." Silence filled the room. I stared at her. "You made us struggle to test us? You all turned out strong, didn't you?" That was it. That was the moment the illusion died. She wasn't ashamed, she wasn't apologetic. She believed she was justified. All those years of guilt I carried, manufactured. All those nights I blamed myself for wanting help, engineered. This wasn't accidental secrecy, it was psychological control. And worse, she had planned to leave everything to someone outside her own children. Daniel, the cousin who flattered her, who visited weekly, who validated her decisions. Suddenly, everything made sense. The distance she created between us, the way she discouraged independence but praised obedience, the narrative that money corrupts unless she controlled it. "You were never supposed to find out like this," she said quietly. That sentence hit harder than anything else. Not denial, not apology, just regret about timing. I felt the tears rising, but I refused to let them fall in front of her. "You don't trust us," I said. "I trust myself," she replied. There it was, the core. This wasn't about wealth, it was about power. Hidden money is one thing, financial secrets are another, but deliberate family betrayal? That changes you. I walked out without yelling, without slamming the door, because something had shifted again. The emotional collapse had already happened inside me, and in its place, something colder had formed, clarity. If she wanted control, I would give her the illusion of it, and then I would take mine back, quietly, legally, completely. She thought she was the only one capable of long-term planning. She forgot who taught me resilience. She forgot who raised me to survive. And she had no idea that the real consequences of her hidden money were just beginning. I didn't tell my siblings about the trust. Not yet. I didn't confront Daniel. I didn't threaten lawsuits. I did something much more unsettling. I acted normal. I called my mom the next Sunday like always. I asked about her garden. I listened to her complain about grocery prices. I even apologized for being emotional. She relaxed instantly. That's the thing about people who rely on control. They calm down when they think the storm has passed. But inside me, something had gone still. This wasn't about screaming anymore. It wasn't even about the hidden money. It was about restoring balance. I scheduled a consultation with a financial advisor, not to challenge her assets, to understand mine. Because the more I thought about her financial secrets, the more I realized something critical. She had trained me to survive without help, and survival builds strategy. While she was busy protecting her empire, I started building my own. I refinanced my student loans, consolidated debt, increased my retirement contributions, opened a brokerage account. Quietly, every dollar I invested felt like reclaiming a piece of dignity she had withheld. But that wasn't the real move. The real move required patience. I started spending more time with her, visiting, helping with errands, listening. She loved that. She told her friends we had worked through it. What she didn't know was that I was gathering information. She liked to talk when she felt admired. She mentioned tenant issues once. Another time, she complained about property taxes rising. I asked innocent questions. Do you manage everything yourself? Isn't that stressful? She'd smile proudly. I've always handled my own affairs. Of course she had. Control was her oxygen. Meanwhile, I reconnected with Daniel, friendly, casual. I asked about real estate trends. He assumed I was finally interested. He had no idea I already knew about the trust. Over dinner one night, he bragged, just a little too confidently, about long-term positioning. That phrase stuck. Positioning. That's what this all was. She had positioned herself as the martyr, positioned us as ungrateful children, positioned him as the loyal successor, so I positioned myself too. I requested copies of my father's old financial records through probate archives. That's when I found something unexpected: the seed money. The initial capital used to purchase the first property. It hadn't come from her salary. It came from a life insurance payout after my father's death, a payout meant for family stability. The phrase was printed clearly in the document: family stability, not personal leverage, not secret accumulation. Family. The hidden money wasn't entirely hers to morally hoard. That discovery changed everything. Because now this wasn't just emotional betrayal, it was misrepresentation and possibly breach of fiduciary intent. I didn't rush to a lawyer. I didn't threaten exposure. Instead, I asked my mom one simple question during our next visit. Did Dad intend us to benefit from the insurance policy? Her fork paused midair. He trusted me to decide, she said carefully. That wasn't a no, but it wasn't honest either. I nodded, let it go for now, because silent revenge isn't explosive, it's structural. Over the next few months, I strengthened my relationship with my siblings. Without attacking her, without revealing everything, I simply started educating them. Investing basics, credit building, financial literacy. If she had used financial secrets to keep us dependent, I would dismantle that dependency, quietly. And something unexpected happened. The more independent we became, the less power her hidden money held. She noticed. Of course she did. She started asking subtle questions. Are you saving more these days? You seem confident. I smiled. I learned from you. That answer unsettled her more than anger ever could, because control works best in darkness, and I had turned on the light. But the real shift was still coming, because Daniel, in his confidence, made a mistake, and when he did, I was ready. Daniel's mistake wasn't dramatic. It was arrogant. And arrogance is louder than confession. It started with a phone call from my brother. Hey, did Mom ever mention refinancing one of the properties? My heart didn't race. It steadied. No, I said calmly. Why? She asked if I'd be willing to co-sign something small, just temporary. There it was. Temporary. The same word she used when she dismissed her financial secrets. The same tone she used when she minimized hidden money. I told him not to sign anything yet. Then I made a few quiet calls of my own. Public records are surprisingly accessible when you know where to look. One of the rental properties had been leveraged, significantly. Daniel had recently formed a new LLC, and somehow funds had been transferred between accounts connected to my mother's trust. Sloppy, too confident. He wasn't stealing, not exactly, but he was repositioning assets. The kind of repositioning that benefits the primary heir. The kind of move someone makes when they believe no one else is paying attention. I didn't confront him. I didn't warn my mom. Instead, I scheduled a meeting with the same estate attorney who knocked on my door months ago. I walked in prepared, documents organized, questions precise. He looked uncomfortable. "Your mother is competent," he said carefully, "but there have been changes." "Changes initiated by Daniel?" I asked. He didn't answer directly. That was enough. I requested something simple, a formal review of fiduciary compliance. Nothing aggressive, just standard oversight. Because when large amounts of hidden money move between entities connected to a trust, documentation matters a lot. The audit didn't accuse anyone. It didn't threaten legal action. It simply required transparency. And transparency is kryptonite to people operating in shadows. 2 weeks later, my mom called me. Her voice was tight. "Did you initiate a compliance review?" I didn't lie. "Yes." "How dare you question my decisions?" I let the silence stretch. Then I said quietly, "You raised me to be careful." She exhaled sharply. "This is unnecessary. If everything is clean, then it won't matter." That was the shift. For the first time, she wasn't in control of the narrative. She wasn't the struggling single mother. She wasn't the wise protector of assets. She was a trustee under review. Daniel called me next. His tone wasn't friendly anymore. "You're overstepping." "I'm ensuring stability." The same language printed on my father's insurance document. Family stability. He went quiet. Because he knew. He knew that once financial secrets enter formal review, they stop being secrets. The audit uncovered irregularities. Nothing criminal, but enough to raise ethical concerns. Asset transfers that favored Daniel's business ventures. Reallocation of beneficiary percentages. Revisions made without full disclosure to contingent heirs. Contingent heirs. That's what my siblings and I were legally labeled. Conditional. Replaceable. That hurt more than I expected, but it also clarified something important. This wasn't revenge for hidden money. This was accountability for family betrayal. The attorney recommended restructuring the trust to avoid potential disputes. Translation: Daniel's influence needed limits. My mom resisted at first, but pressure changes people, especially when advisors start using phrases like fiduciary responsibility and legal exposure. Within months, the trust was amended. Equal distribution among her children, clear oversight protocols, no unilateral asset transfers without documentation. Daniel's LLC was separated from trust assets. Neatly, professionally, completely. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. When my mom told me the changes had been made, she sounded tired. "You've made things complicated," she said. "No," I replied softly. "I made them clear." Karma didn't arrive with sirens. It arrived with paperwork, with structure, with consequences that matched actions. The hidden money was still hers while she was alive, but the power dynamic had shifted permanently. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the child waiting for approval. I was the woman who refused to be erased. Daniel stopped calling. Mom became quieter, more cautious. Because when financial secrets are exposed to light, they lose their leverage. And when family betrayal meets boundaries, it stops repeating itself. But the biggest change wasn't in the documents. It was in me. For a while, everything felt calm. Not warm, not healed, just stable. The trust was restructured, Daniel faded into the background, the asset transfers stopped. On paper, the crisis was over, but betrayal doesn't end when documents are signed. It lingers. It reshapes how you see childhood memories. It rewrites the tone of old conversations. I started noticing small things I had ignored before. How my mom would watch us carefully when we talked about money, how she'd change the subject if we discussed investments, how she'd subtly praise whichever sibling needed her approval most that week. Control doesn't disappear overnight. It adapts. But something had changed. The hidden money no longer defined the emotional balance in the room. It didn't hang over us like an invisible threat, because now we all knew it existed, and knowledge is stabilizing. One evening, my sister called me. Her voice was tight. "Did she tell you about the changes?" I didn't lie. "Yes." "Are you mad?" I asked. "No," she replied. "I'm relieved." That word hit deeper than anger ever could. Relieved. Because we weren't fighting over wealth. We were fighting over clarity, over fairness, over the right to not be manipulated by financial secrets disguised as protection. Months passed. I kept investing, kept building, kept strengthening my own foundation, and ironically, the more secure I became financially, the less I cared about her hidden money. It stopped being the prize. It became a symbol of what happens when fear turns into control. One evening, my mom invited me over for tea. It felt formal, almost rehearsed. We sat at the same kitchen table where bills once covered every inch, the same table where she used to sigh dramatically about being barely afloat. She looked older, not physically, emotionally. She said, "I did what I thought was right." I didn't interrupt. "I grew up watching money tear my family apart. I promised myself I'd never let that happen." "And so you hid it?" I asked gently. She nodded. "I thought if you didn't know, you wouldn't fight over it." I held her gaze. We weren't fighting over money. We were fighting over trust. Silence settled between us. For the first time, she didn't deflect, didn't gaslight, didn't call me dramatic. She just sat there, and I realized something important. People who keep financial secrets often believe they're preventing chaos, but secrecy creates the very instability they fear. Family betrayal rarely starts with greed. It starts with control disguised as protection. I didn't forgive her in that moment. Forgiveness isn't a switch, it's a process. But I let go of something heavier than anger. I let go of the need to win, because I already had. Not financially, emotionally. I no longer needed her approval. I no longer needed access to her hidden money to feel secure. I had built my own safety net, with transparency, with boundaries, with independence. The greatest revenge wasn't restructuring the trust. It wasn't limiting Daniel's influence. It wasn't exposing the financial secrets. It was becoming untouchable by them. And that changed everything. Our relationship isn't perfect now. It's cautious, measured, honest in ways it never was before. We talk about investments openly. We discuss estate planning like adults. And sometimes, when she slips into old patterns, I gently remind her, we don't do secrets anymore. She doesn't always like that, but she respects it. And respect feels different from fear. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Hidden money can fracture a family. Financial secrets can distort love. But family betrayal only thrives in silence. The moment you choose clarity, you change the ending. I used to think wealth was about numbers. Now I know it's about power. And the most powerful thing you can own is your own narrative. So tell me, if you discovered your parent had hidden money your entire life, would you expose the financial secrets, or would you walk away and build your own freedom instead? Just when I thought the story had settled, it shifted again. Not because of paperwork, not because of hidden money, but because of something far more uncomfortable. Truth. About a year after the trust was amended, my mom had a minor health scare. Nothing life-threatening, but enough to shake her sense of control. She called me from the hospital parking lot. Her voice wasn't dramatic this time. It was small. "I don't want to be alone," she said. That sentence did something to me. Because for all the financial secrets, for all the family betrayal, she was still my mother. I picked her up, sat with her, handled insurance calls. And for the first time in decades, the power dynamic felt equal. Not child and authority, not trustee and beneficiary, just two adults confronting mortality. A few weeks later, she asked me to come over again. "I want to go over everything," she said. Everything. We spread documents across the kitchen table: property deeds, investment statements, life insurance policies. No sighs, no theatrics, just transparency. "This is what exists," she said quietly. "No more hidden money." The phrase hung between us. No more hidden money. Hearing her say it out loud felt surreal. She walked me through the accounts, explained why she structured things the way she did. Some of it was fear, some of it was pride, some of it was resentment she never admitted she carried after my father died. "I didn't want to depend on anyone," she said, "not even my own children." That sentence hurt, but it also clarified something I hadn't fully understood. Her financial secrets weren't just about testing us, they were about proving she didn't need us. Control had become her identity, and when Daniel validated that identity, she leaned into it, because validation is addictive. But audits and oversight changed that dynamic. So did aging. So did realizing her children weren't fighting for her money. We were fighting for honesty. She slid one final document across the table, a letter, handwritten, addressed to all three of us. "In case something happens," she said. It wasn't about distribution percentages. It wasn't about assets. It was an apology. Not dramatic, not poetic, just direct. "I confused protection with secrecy. I confused strength with isolation." I didn't cry. I thought I would, but instead I felt something steadier. Closure. Not perfect closure, but enough. Over the next few months, she gradually involved us in decisions, asked opinions, shared updates. When she refinanced a property again, she explained why. When markets dipped, she talked about risk tolerance. The financial secrets stopped multiplying. Transparency became routine. Daniel drifted further away. Without exclusive access, he had no leverage, and without leverage, his influence dissolved. That's the quiet thing about karma. It doesn't always punish loudly. Sometimes it simply removes advantage. The hidden money no longer separated us. It became neutral, just numbers on paper. And here's the part that surprised me most. Once the family betrayal lost its secrecy, it lost its power to define us. My siblings and I grew closer, not because of inheritance, but because we chose clarity over competition. We talked openly about boundaries, about expectations, about how we'd handle things differently with our own children someday. The cycle stopped with us. And maybe that was the real victory. Not the trust amendment, not the compliance review, but the interruption of inherited silence. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if that attorney had never knocked on my door, if the hidden money had stayed hidden, if the financial secrets had quietly transferred everything to Daniel. Would we have found out too late? Would the family betrayal have exploded after her death instead? I don't know. What I do know is this: exposure forced growth, discomfort forced honesty, and honesty rebuilt something secrecy nearly destroyed. My mom still struggles with control sometimes. Old habits linger. But now, when she starts to withhold information, I don't explode. I don't accuse. I just say calmly, "We agreed on transparency." And she nods, because she knows what happens when financial secrets grow unchecked. They fracture trust. They distort love. They turn protection into isolation. I used to think revenge meant making someone feel the pain they caused you. Now I understand something deeper. The most powerful revenge is transformation, not into bitterness, but into independence, not into cruelty, but into clarity. And if there's one lesson I'll carry forever, it's this: hidden money can shake a family. Financial secrets can divide siblings. Family betrayal can redefine childhood. But transparency? Transparency rebuilds everything. So I'll leave you with this. If someone you loved hid the truth for years, would you fight it all down? Or would you demand light and see what survives? It's been 3 years since the audit. 3 years since I learned about the hidden bunny. 3 years since the illusion of my childhood quietly collapsed. And if you asked me today what hurt the most, it wouldn't be the dollars. It wouldn't even be the financial secrets. It would be the realization that I spent half my life feeling guilty for needing help that actually existed. That kind of guilt rewires you. For a long time, I equated independence with worthiness. If I could survive alone, I deserved love. If I struggled silently, I was strong. If I never expected anything, I was good. That mindset didn't come from nowhere. It came from growing up under quiet family betrayal disguised as character building. But here's what changed. When the trust was restructured and transparency became routine, something unexpected happened inside me. I stopped chasing approval. I stopped overworking to prove I didn't need anyone. I started making decisions based on desire, not survival. I changed jobs, negotiated my salary without apologizing for it, bought a small condo with money I had invested myself. Not from her, not from the trust, mine. When I signed those closing documents, I didn't feel revenge. I felt peace. Because the hidden money no longer defined my future. It no longer represented what I had been denied. It simply existed. Neutral. Separate from my identity. My mom is different now. Still cautious, still structured, but transparent. We meet quarterly to review her estate plan together. Not because I demand it, but because she insists. Full disclosure, she jokes sometimes, and we both know that phrase carries history. Daniel rarely comes around anymore. Without access to influence, he lost interest. There was no dramatic confrontation, no explosive fallout, just distance. That's the quiet beauty of accountability. When financial secrets are exposed to structure, the people benefiting from opacity usually drift away on their own. My siblings and I talk openly about money now, investments, savings goals, retirement plans. Not because we're obsessed with wealth, but because silence nearly cost us trust. We decided that in our generation, money would not be taboo. It would be discussed, documented, shared. Because family betrayal thrives in whispers, and we refuse to whisper. Sometimes people ask me if I ever truly forgave her. The honest answer? Forgiveness wasn't a single moment. It was gradual, layered. There were days I still felt anger, days I remembered crying in college over bills while hidden money sat untouched. But those memories no longer control me. They inform me. They remind me why transparency matters, why independence matters, why emotional honesty matters more than inheritance. The irony is this: if she had simply told us the truth from the beginning, there would have been no rebellion, no audit, no compliance review, no fear of legal exposure. The financial secrets created the very instability she claimed she was preventing. And that's the lesson I carry forward. Control feels safe in the short term. Transparency builds safety in the long term. My relationship with my mom today isn't perfect. It's real. We disagree sometimes. We revisit old wounds occasionally. But we don't pretend anymore. There is no hidden money lurking in the background of conversations. No strategic withholding. No emotional testing disguised as parenting. Just clarity.